Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the REDX podcast. My name is Andrew. I'll be your host today. And today we've got a return guest, an amazing guest we've had on several times before, Jason Morris from the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area. Jason, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Doing fantastic. We're excited to have you on today because for the audience, we're going to be talking about inventory. I mean, that's kind of the hot thing right now, is inventory is crazy, low inventory, houses are selling so fast, everything going on in the market. I'm sure everyone out there has heard it, but we're going to be going into some of the details there, how to effectively prospect during the low inventory, some high priority activities you should be focusing on, how you can build inventory while it's low, and then some other advice and some little hacks from Jason here. So I'm excited to get going here. Before we jump in, I want to remind the audience that this is a participatory event. So if you have any questions for Jason, any input on the state of the market, low inventory, whatever it is, chime in, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, on our website, and we will get those questions answered. So let's just get right into it, Jason. Low inventory, like I said, that's the topic for today.
God. Dude,
what are your initial thoughts on that? Yeah.
Well, I think it's an interesting time. I think right now, as a listing agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a listing agent, it's the greatest time that we could be in the business.
Right.
I know there's a lot of agents out there frustrated right now, but honestly, we're just at a point. Okay, this is kind of how I see things right now. Okay, if we're going out here, we could have a buyer. We could have a buyer that's 110% approved. They got cash in the bank. They're looking in the $300,000 range. They got $500,000 in the bank, right? So they got the money to buy the house they can afford for sure, and extra money, right?
Sure.
Well, here's the thing. There's 20 other people looking at that house that are also well-qualified people, and they all put an offer in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just say 3 or 5 put an offer in, on that well-priced house at $300,000 price range. Well, there's only one agent that's going to get paid for sure on that transaction.
Right.
Right? And it's not the buyer's agent. You got a 1 in 5 shot, and depending on your buyer and how how educated they are on the market and your sales skills and just your ability to tell them, hey, highest and best means above asking price as much as you're willing to pay. You know what I mean?
Right.
The list price doesn't even mean anything in some of these markets, it seems like. There's still only one agent that's going to get paid for sure.
Yeah.
And you could do that. There's agents getting frustrated because I hear about it in my coaching. There's agents that are getting frustrated that are going through that scenario 4, 5, 6, 7 times and losing out. They got buyers aren't even going to look at the house anymore. They're just looking at the one picture online the listing agent put up, and throwing an offer out there and hoping for the best. And it's frustrating.
Yeah.
It is very frustrating to be a buyer's agent right now.
Sure.
To be a listing agent, though, it's really interesting too, because we all think there's all this competition out there. Oh, everybody's making calls. Everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing that. Well, the thing is, they're actually not. There's not as many agents calling as what you think. I guarantee you, because a lot of those guys have gotten frustrated because, you know what, the expireds that expired today, depending on your market, there was probably 3 of them. There's probably 3 of them. All 3 have some kind of problem or issue. And all 3 have been called by, if you're in Salt Lake City, Utah, they've probably been called by 50 agents already this morning.
Right.
So there's a lot of agents that are frustrated with that whole scenario there. But at the same time, those agents that are calling that are running into that, they are also in the position where they are getting frustrated as well, right?
Right.
So the agents that are really going out there and making those follow-up calls, calling 12, 15, 18 times to a lead before they throw it away, those agents, really by the second time they follow it up, they're the only agents really in the running. Right?
So what you're saying is that regardless of price, regardless of inventory, it's all in kind of that consistency, that commitment to the grind and the follow-up. And I feel like we get this in any market, is that, a lot of agents just give up too early. And you're saying that that's still the case. It's, same game, kind of.
They're giving up too early, man. And I might probably just going to give it away while we're saying this. And it is the fundamentals in today's market are more important than they are in a slow market.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
The fundamentals, and really the fundamentals are, your ability to learn and practice your scripts and your ability to follow up. I mean, that's really it. And then of course your ability to present.
Yeah.
Okay. And right now in today's market, with there not being a lot of numbers you can dial that are low hanging fruit, right? We're not talking about, I think we did a podcast a while back. We talked about like 15 ways to use geo leads, and I know that's in y'all's archive for anybody that wants to go listen to it. But the low hanging fruit out there, the people that have problems that are easy, like the expireds, the for sale by owners, the probate leads, the pre foreclosures, the for rent by owners, the low fruit, there's just not a lot of numbers to dial, so we have to be more diligent. And you know what the interesting thing is in today's market, you have the ability to go out here and make a lot of money very quickly. Okay, in a down market, let's say you're going out there, you list 5 or 6 properties, 8 properties a month, 1 to 2 a week, right? Well, in today's market, you might not get that one listing a week. Let's say you only list 2 or 3 a month. The difference is, instead of you listing 8 and selling 3 or 4, in today's market, you're going to list 3, and all 3 are probably going to go to multiple offers, and all 3 are going to sell.
Right.
We're at a point right now where taking a listing is almost a guaranteed paycheck. I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but I mean, you guys probably have this number somewhere out there. Percentage of listings are selling right now, and I'm sure that it's outrageous,
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's like 95% or something like that.
Sure.
Probably 95% of listings sell. So you have a 95% chance you're going to get paid if you take a listing. But the crazy thing is, there are agents out there that are still not practicing their scripts. They're not practicing overcoming objections. They're not diligently following up. They're not following the schedule they made. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
honestly,
it almost seems like
when
the market changes, agents think that they need to change too. And sometimes it seems like it's for the worse. And what you're saying here is that, no, you don't need to change. You need to keep on doing everything that you should be doing regardless. Yes. And that's the key to success.
Yeah. It's really, we shouldn't be praying that it gets easier. We should be praying that we get better. Right.
I love that.
The skills that you're going to learn today in today's market, if you really go out there and really practice your scripts, practice your dialogues, practice overcoming your top 3 objections, you know what I mean? You're going to get really good. And I will tell you, this market's not going to last forever. Let's say, I mean, if we have another 6 months of this, I think it'll be amazing. I mean, I'm not trying to predict the future, because it might go on long. It's already went on longer than I ever thought it would.
Yeah.
Totally. I never thought it would go on this long. Maybe we only have 2 or 3 months left of this. Right.
So you mentioned those top 3 objections that every agent should be practicing. I know that kind of varies from agent to agent, but what do you think that in today's market, in this low inventory market, what are some of the common objections that you think agents should be practicing? You know
what the funny thing is there's no new objections. The same objections I was getting 20 years ago when I started are the same objections you get in 2021. Hey, we're not ready to list our property right now. We don't want to pay a real estate commission. We'll pay you 3% if you bring a buyer.
Okay.
Right. And if we got really good at overcoming those 3 objections, how would that change our business? All the rest of the objections, they don't really matter, but those top 3, they might be a little different in your market, but those top 3, if we got that you're getting 70-80% of the time, what if we got really, really good at overcoming those, right? Or we just got really good at how to handle them.
Sure.
How would that change the conversations you're having?
Absolutely.
And how would it change the conversations you're having? How would it change your process if you focused on, like, maybe you focused on less qualifying your appointments right now? Right? Because once you get, let's say there are 20 agents calling diligently every morning, right? And they're calling on the same list, and there might be more, we can say 50, right? Sure. But if you get really good at getting in the door and getting in front of them, even if you don't take the listing that's in front of, that day you show up, you're still one of probably only 1 or 2 that actually got in the door, right? So they're more than likely going to go with somebody they know, somebody they feel comfortable with, somebody they trust. And if your system lends itself to building trust, then you're probably going to be the agent they pick if they meet you in person.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you're going to be one of a couple agents
Yeah. And that comes back to the principles, like you said, that are true in any market that we hear time and time and time again, which is practice, stay top of mind, work your sphere, make sure that you're building relationships, because relationships at the end of the day, whether you're making now business, and now business might be a little bit less than it was, but ultimately it doesn't have to be, because as long as you're doing your job, staying top of mind, that's what really matters. Yeah, I love that. So we've talked a little bit about how to effectively prospect, right? What we should be practicing, what the market looks like. What specific activities should agents be focusing on? Whether it's cold calling, who they should be calling. What are some of those top activities you think?
Right now, prospecting is the top activity, right? I believe that all your buyer leads, I think you need to set standards for your business, set standards for the buyer leads you're going to work with, right? And if they don't meet those standards, you should send them to somebody else. No matter how eager they are to buy, you should not. That is not the highest and best use of your time. Send them to somebody else, get a 25, 35% referral, and stay on the phone, right? Stay on the phone, because it doesn't make sense for you to go out there, kill 2, 3, 4 days of dragging buyers around, multiple offer decisions and stuff to not get paid. Where if you spent that 3 or 4 days at the same time on the phone, it's a good chance you'd have a listing appointment, maybe more than one listing appointment.
Right. And so within the scope of prospecting, let's do a top 2 lead types that you think people should be calling. I know the popular ones are usually expireds for sell by owners and maybe geo leads. Do you think that those are still there? Or what are your top 2?
Well, I think expireds and for sale by owners, I think that would be 1 and 2, no matter what the market is.
Okay.
Right.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think that if you don't have many new ones, you should be going back and calling the ones that are 1 year, 2 years old, 3 years old, right? Because something happened to those that don't get listed. And if you're using REDX, it sorts them out. The ones that did get listed, it sorts it out for you, right?
Right.
So I think for sale by owners and expireds, that would always be my number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
I think number 3 would be for rent by owners. And the reason I say for rent by owners is because we're in such a crazy time right now with the coronavirus and everything going on with that. Is in South Carolina, you couldn't evict. They've just started scheduling eviction hearings, right?
Yeah.
So so the unfortunate thing for a lot of landlords out there is a lot of landlords, I don't believe, set out necessarily to be a professional landlord, right? They don't have 20 properties, and if one they're not getting paid on, it's not a big deal. A lot of our landlords, at least in Myrtle Beach area, the ones I deal with, they got one property, man, and if they don't get that rent check that month, they're freaking out, right?
Okay.
They don't have 10 grand in reserves, or anything like that. They might be able to squeeze by a month or two without paying paying the mortgage and stuff. And now we're in an interesting position with those too. They couldn't evict the tenant. Then they had these funky mortgage modification things with the coronavirus.
Right.
And all that stuff is it looks like state of South Carolina, the mask mandate just ended in a lot of restaurants. We're seeing a lot of stuff like that with the coronavirus. It looks like it's coming to an end. That comes to an end, these banks are going to start foreclosing on these people, because I'll tell you guys this, March 17th, I believe, was the day. St. Patrick's Day was the last day in Myrtle Beach. They had big nights out at the bars and stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
After that, everything started closing down. So what long after that, people basically could quit paying rent. You couldn't do much about it. So some of these people with mortgages have went 9, 10, 12 months almost already. So once the coronavirus restrictions are lifted, I think these banks are going to go in and start foreclosing like crazy.
Right. And that's something we've heard that from a few people, is that, are we going to get a spike in foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, whatever it is?
We have to.
We have to, but I think it's interesting that you're kind of focusing on it within the umbrella niche of for rent by owners, right? I mean, sure, there are going to be plenty of those among the common homeowner, but especially for people whose renters aren't paying rent and who have been doing some of those mortgage modifications, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge.
Well, it's even like this right here. Let's say you're out of work because of the coronavirus. You got a rental property down the road. They're not going to foreclose on your tenants. You got great people in there. They're paying your rent just like they agreed. Everything's good with them.
Yep.
What you're going to quit paying payments on first? Your primary residence you and your family live in, or the investment property down the street. They're not going to foreclose on right now.
Right.
So, and that's just something I've seen from the previous downturn in the market. I really believe I really believe that, well, number one, um, building costs are going through the roof. Like the cost of lumber has went up almost 300% in my area.
Right.
So a
And
lot of
new
these
builds
small
are booked
builders,
out for months and months and months, right? At
you
least
know
in
what
my
the
area.
amazing thing is? They are here too. And the
Yeah.
amazing thing is, it's like, how can a builder today sign a contract guaranteeing a price 6 months from now? Because 6 months ago, I'll tell you this, for rentals that I have, 8 months ago, we were paying $3 for a 2x4. The same 2x4 is $9 now, right?
Crazy. Yeah.
So in a piece of plywood, piece of plywood a year ago, 7/16 plywood, and that's what they use for sheathing on the outside of houses and a lot of the roofs is 7/16. And that 7/16 plywood a year ago at Home Depot was like $9, $10. Now it's like $31, that same piece of plywood.
Crazy.
So the building package has went up. I mean, it's at least double, two and a half times what it was. And so how, not knowing what the future is going to hold, how can a lot of builders lock in a price today for a house that's going to be completed 6 months from now, and make sure they don't lose money? And the houses that are getting the certificates of occupancy right now that went under contract 6 months ago, the building costs have went up so much since then. Can they really afford to build? Like a small builder, a guy building one or two houses at a time, can't afford to build in today's market. Because not only do we have the lumber cost that's went up, we have the cost of labor's went up, which is really interesting. Like, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was building some houses with these guys. We were just building spec homes. To get a house framed, we could get a house framed for like $2.50 a square foot and have guys that would start tomorrow. Now that same house is $6.50 a square foot, right? Labor cost. Yeah. So not only have we seen a material cost, we've seen a labor shortage in that industry. So new construction, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when we see a big company like a D.R. Horton, a Pulte, something like that, the big national builders traded on the stock exchange? What are we going to see? What's going to happen when we see them get caught by the market here?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and it's so many different things that I think we as the public don't always see. The average Joe doesn't always see. But it's important to think about. I want to go back and just touch real quick before I forget. I want to touch on this for rent by owner. Maybe a script or a strategy for people to use with these for rent by owners, because I don't know the exact rules. I don't know the ins and outs, but is it possible? Is it allowed? Are we good to just call the owners of these rental properties and say, hey, now is the best time to liquidate. You should do it. Sell now. You're probably behind. Like, how does that look? What strategies do you think people should be implementing?
What I think you should do, this is just what I've done that's been successful in the past, is contact them. Contact them, script short and sweet. Hey, Jason Morris from ABC Realty. I was calling you about your house. I seen you wanted to rent it. Would you be interested in possibly selling it?
Right.
They say, oh, no, we're getting a lot of calls on rentals, blah, 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 because the rental market's on fire across the country. They're getting more rent than they ever got, probably. So I would start out with, would you be interested in selling it? And they're probably going to tell you no.
Right.
Okay. They're going to tell you no. And then the next thing you say is, well, I tell you what, how about if I send you over some information about me and my team and what we do to sell houses? If you change your mind in the future, you'll have my contact information. Have some information about me.
Super short and simple. I like that. You don't get into the nitty-gritty details. You don't get into, that's awesome.
We're not really going to talk about price. They're going to turn us down. We're going to ask to send our pre-listing package.
Right.
We're going to send that over. Then we're going to follow up in about a week, right? Okay. Or maybe in a day or two, you follow up and just say, hey, man, Jason Morris here. Just want to give you a call, make sure you got the email, see if you had any questions about it. Hey, look, I was doing some research in that area your house is in, and I kind of want to share with you what I found out. Is it cool if I email it over to you? I'm going to email you some things going on there. Send that over to them, follow up the next day. Hey, man, I just want to make sure you got the email, see if you had a few minutes to go down through it. There's some interesting things going on in that neighborhood your house is in, right? And then you talk to them about what's listed, what's sold, just what's happening, right? Just a 5-10 minute conversation. After 3 or 4 calls and over a week or two like that, they're going to kind of know who you are. right?
Yeah.
And then just once a month, man, you just follow up with those people. You can follow up more if you got something to talk about, but once a month you follow up with them, and if you can add 2-3 a day every business day, that's 60 a month times 12 months. You got 720 people in your basically for rent by owner farm, right? That you're following up with once a month. Let's just say if that has an 8% turnover rate, I mean, you could sell, what's that, 50 houses?
Yeah. Well, it sounds
50
like we're
houses
going
next
back to
year.
what you were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, which is stick to what we know works, right? You don't have to do anything clever. You don't have to do anything fancy. Stick to what we know works. Now, here's a good question that we're getting from someone in the audience. Spencer asked, on the topic of follow-up, how much follow-up is too much, especially for these renters?
Well, I don't think that you can follow up nowadays and go, hey, man, you ready to list today?
Right.
You ready to list today? I think that's kind of pointless. I think you need to follow up with something of value. I mean, we're all nosy. We all care about, hey, I'll tell you what, man, if you called me today and told me something about the house down the street from mine, I would stay on the phone and listen to you. And I'm a real estate agent too. I can list my own house, right?
Right.
And I would still be interested in having that conversation with you. What do you think's happening in, this community I live in, right?
Right.
So I think you got to talk to them about what they want to talk about versus what you want to talk about. A lot of agents get confused with that, and they want to hammer in, hey, I'm the greatest agent ever, number one agent on, Jones Street. And I mean, it doesn't really matter because that's not really what the seller or the owner wants to talk about.
Right. It's the same thing that they hear from every other agent that's calling them, but set yourself apart by
if you set yourself apart, really have that that heart of a giver.
Right.
And just go ahead and assume these people are my clients. I'm going to treat them as clients, and I'm going to make sure that they're extremely educated on what's happening right now in that community they own a house in. Right?
So to get to Spencer's question specifically, it's about the quality of the follow-up, not necessarily
it's the quality of follow-up.
Right.
Yep. And setting yourself up for additional follow-up, like, hey, man, I did some research here. Would you mind if I email it over to you? They go, oh, great, right? So you email it over to them, and then you call them the next day, make sure they got it, and ask if they got a few minutes to go over it with you.
Right.
Nice. Just continuously set yourself up for the next follow-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you do that, you can really just build a conversation with them is really what you're doing. I mean, without a doubt, just build a conversation with them, and just become that agent that's their go-to, the one that's told them stuff nobody else has. And you know what? You're going to have a lot of these for rent by owners over the next 12 months. We're still going to have coronavirus problems, right? I don't think this is gone. I mean, if we think about it, it didn't really get bad last year until March 17th was when they started shutting down stuff here. Yeah. And I don't know how I remember that day, but just March 17th. But
totally.
But if we look at that and we have a year this year, if it starts ramping back up, they're going to stop evictions again, and they're going to have all these stipulations. And if you keep yourself a little bit educated on what's going on and you can relay that information to them, like I'll tell you this here, man, we couldn't evict for them being behind on rent, but we could evict them for a lease violation. So I couldn't evict you because you owe me thousands of dollars, but I could evict you because you have a dog that wasn't supposed to be there.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So that little piece of information probably saved friends and clients of mine thousands of dollars from tenants that were just taking advantage of that situation. I hate to sound like a mean, cold landlord, when I say that, but the sad part about this is there's a lot of help for tenants out there right now. I'll tell you one thing too, there's a lot of programs for rent that will pay the tenants rent right now that's coronavirus relief related. And think about that, man. If just that list, you had 20, 30 people that you passed that information along and they got 2 or 3 months of back rent paid to them, right?
Right.
And then 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, that tenant moves out and they do want to sell it. Who are they going to call?
Yeah.
Right. And that's something with these for rent by owners that just a lot of these people, they own one property, they own 2 properties, and they're just not keeping up with it. Right. Some of the guys that I'm friends with that own 10, 12, 15 properties aren't keeping up with it. They're just not plugged in like we are as real estate agents. Yeah. And so I really think you could be that resource for them, and you could develop an unbelievable business just from calling those people.
I love that. I love that. And kind of a follow-up question that really ties into this, I think in a great way, is Amanda Smith. She's a regular viewer and our participator here. She asked, like, how much, I think she's asking how much of your daily schedule, right? So how much of your work day do you dedicate to that follow-up within your daily schedule?
You know what I think? I think that it's almost a chicken or egg kind of question, right?
Sure.
How much time do you let's say that you have 3 hours you can invest in prospecting, and you have 3 hours a day you can invest in that. And I know that's a tremendous amount for a lot of agents. How do you divide that up? You kind of got to make the initial calls, right? Those initial calls are the top level of your funnel. They're who you decide serious about selling, not serious about selling, maybe receptive to you. Sometimes you even know that initial call, like, hey, dude, this guy, I can't work for him. You know what I mean? Right. Sometimes you have that opinion, and every time I don't trust my gut on that opinion, it burns me later on.
Right.
When you have that person that you just have that personality clash with. But you got to make the initial calls, but then the follow-up is so important. If you're not going to do the follow-up, the initial calls are almost a waste. But
so would you say just almost as much time as you feel is necessary?
Almost as much as necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially today.
The follow-up's a little further down the funnel. Mm-hmm. If I had to break up 3 hours into what would I do, I'd probably do initial calls for 2 hours, follow-up for an hour. If I had to schedule it, because you want as many people in that follow-up pipeline as possible. People you've talked to, the people that have some motivation, the people that are interested in selling, right?
Absolutely.
And don't get too like that first call. Don't get too like, oh, this person's going to list or this person's not going to list. Like, don't judge it by first impression, because you know what, man, there's a lot of people I talked to the first call and I went, man, this person's such an a-hole, like I never want to talk to them again. But then I called them back in a week and they were super nice on the phone with me and we hit it off, and I ended up listing their house and selling it for them. Right. And, we kind of forget that. I don't like to say we're telemarketers, but we kind of come across the same way, right? We're calling a person that we don't know, trying to pitch them a service that they may or may not think they need. Right.
Right.
And so we kind of forget that just because we called, that doesn't mean it's convenient time for us, but it doesn't mean it's convenient time for them, right?
Right. Well, and that gets back to that rule of follow the basic principles of real estate. This is rejection, right? This is as simple as rejection. Yeah. If you can overcome the rejection and still focus on your follow-up, good to go.
Dude, you know what, man? Objection, a lot of times just a smoke screen. It's just something that they use to get you off the phone as quick as possible. Yeah. And if you can learn to deal with that internally, right? We've all been rejected. We've all been rejected at this point in our lives, it's on some level. But if we can get to a point where we deal with that and we focus on what's at hand, like, hey, yeah, you don't want to hire a real estate agent, but you do want to sell your house, right? Okay, how much do you want for it? What kind of conditions is it in? How old's the roof? How old's the flooring? How old's this? Have you done any upgrades? Blah, blah, blah. How soon would you like to sell it? Eliminate that word listing from your vocabulary. Eliminate it from all your scripts. Talk about selling their house versus listing their house.
Right.
And those conversations are going to change a lot for you.
I love it. I love that. So we've talked a lot about kind of the basic principles of prospecting. The whole conversation has kind of been stick to the basics, stick to what we know, because that's always effective. I'm wondering if there are any inventory building solutions or any other strategies outside of that you've seen it be effective in today's market, right? In 2021, this pandemic market, any other things that, maybe they're little secrets or hacks, but something that you think is effective?
Man, I think the thing we got to do is not really a secret or a hack, but I think we need to make our businesses as simple as possible.
Okay.
Right.
I love it. Yeah.
And the reason I say this is because I still see a lot of agents out there, and they're going out there and, they want to dominate their town with video, which is really cool, man. It's really cool. I'd love to do videos of all the oceanfront buildings in Myrtle Beach. I think about it. I think about how much I could do with that. But I know too that I make a lot of money doing A, B, and C. And those videos are like E, F, G, maybe down the road, right? And I know that if I stick to A, B, and C, I'm going to make a lot of money, and everything's like a guaranteed sale right now, right? So I think what we should be looking at right now is how can we make our business simpler, right? If we eliminated dragging buyers around that don't fit the typical buyer we want to work with, we give them to a great agent in our office. There's an agent right now sitting in your office that will take them on a referral and be extremely happy and keep you so up to date that you can't stand it, right? And they can probably service that client better than you right now if you're a moderately busy agent, right?
Right.
So if we can outsource that and we can just focus on one thing, focus all of our time and all of our workday on conversations with sellers. All the buyers go to other agents. If you want to generate leads and send them out on a round robin, do it in a way that you're not touching or talking to any of those people. And all your conversations are dealing with sellers. Your entire day is built around that. Everything else, get rid of it. Build a schedule that actually works for you, not like a pie in the sky, like I hope kind of schedule. You know, if you got to take the kids to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, don't put that you're going to be at the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Right.
You know, build your schedule too to succeed. I see a lot of agents that they say, oh, I got to have the kids to school at 8. I'm going to start prospecting at 9. But, you know, man, today I'm going to run to Walmart real quick before I do that. And while they're at Walmart, somebody calls, and the next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. They're just getting to the office, right? Build your schedule in a way that you don't let those things interrupt. Walmart ain't going nowhere, man. You can go at 4, right? You go at 5 or 6, right? But we have to build we have to build our schedule so that we let as few distractions in as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that answer because I think in a complicated time and in a complicated world right now, I think a lot of agents think that their business has to follow the way of the world, right? If the world is complicated, so do they. If things seem busy and you know, if they, you know, that don't overcomplicate it. I think that's such a simple solution.
Keep it simple.
And something I think agents need to hear and need to not only hear, you know, have someone else give them permission, but they need to give themselves permission. To get rid of I love that.
All the noise in your business right now.
Yes.
Focus on conversations with sellers. The more conversations you have with sellers, I guarantee the more houses you're going to list.
Beautiful.
Right?
I love it.
I mean, it's just that simple, dude. You know, and you think about that too. Like let's just say you're scheduling yourself for 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week, my goal is to find one seller that will let me help them sell their house.
Nice.
You know, you mean to tell me right now in today's market, as high as prices are, as much equity as sellers have in their house, in 40 hours a week, you can't find one seller that's willing to work for you, work with you? Like, I mean, that's mind-blowing, and I hear agents talk about this all the time. I know inventory's low. I know for sale owners are getting done, but you can't find one in 40 hours a week. I can find one of anything in 40 hours a week.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
I mean, I think you got to develop that mindset though too, you know, that like, shit, man, I got all this time. I can do this.
Yeah.
And focus on that one thing, not 30 things, you know?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think this is a good segue into kind of the final talking point I have for today, which is what do you think that today's market means for the future of real estate? Where do you think things are headed, and what do you think agents should maybe prepare for?
Dude, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting stuff over the next 12 months. I think we're going to see interest rates going up. I think we're going to see the banks closing up a little bit. I think we're going to see $4 a gallon gas by the summertime. That's going to affect the economy on an unbelievable scale. I mean, I think that's probably the craziest thing that's going to happen to the economy. Because all of a sudden you have all these people that you think you fill up your car with gas once a week, man. The average family out there in the world, that costs an extra $100 a month just on gas, getting to and from work, right? And some families, it might cost them more than that, depending on what your commute is. But I think we're going to see that $100 a month was what they used to go out to dinner with. It's what they spent extra at Walmart with. And I think we're going to see that trickle down in a way that it's going to, I think we have to see a recession.
So do you think that this seller's market is going to kind of snap back and go in the other direction?
I think the seller's market is going to snap back and go in the other direction. And I'll tell you what to look for. Look for rental rate decreases. Look for rental. That's going to be the precursor, I think, when we start seeing rental vacancies going up a little bit. That's going to be the precursor when we start seeing apartment complexes running specials.
Yeah.
When you start seeing apartment complexes running specials, you know that the economy's about to go to, SHIT,
And, yeah.
I mean, that's what's going to happen. And, especially when they say, hey, rent today and get a month for free, stuff like that, dude, it's happening, right? And so I think we're going to see all that. I think that I don't think that we need to go practice for short sales right now, but I think they're coming.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing prices now in my market higher than they were in 2006, but we didn't really see incomes go up that much. And what we'll see, though, is we'll see like more, I can't think of the word for it, but extended families, the kids living with the parents a little longer.
Sure.
Or the parents taking in the kids and the grandkids, you know what I mean? We'll see some stuff like that. But, guys, that's nothing to get scared of. We have the greatest opportunity right now because we have a real estate license. Okay. We have probably, if you build your skills in today's market, when the market starts sliding down and all of a sudden instead of there being 5,000 agents in your market, there's 3,000 agents in your market. If you build your skills today in today's market, dude, you're going to be a superstar a year from now when we do have a recession, when we are in the middle of a recession. You're going to be a superstar. And I think that we forget, too, that when the market goes down, our skill set and our tools and resources are more needed. They do need, right now, I mean, technically right now, they can put a red and white for sale by owner sign in the front yard, probably get an offer on their house this week. Yeah. Like, just, honestly. In the middle of a recession, in the middle of a contraction in the market, all of a sudden, there's 6 months of inventory versus 6 days of inventory. Dude, they need our skills. They need somebody that's a qualified professional that has the ability to properly market their property, properly price their property, make sure that all those I's are dotted, T's are crossed when they're trying to get rid of something or trying to get rid of an asset like we have. And I will tell you this, man, I think when we start seeing the market slide down, we're going to see it happen quick. Okay. And the reason I say that is just because I've been around for a little while. I saw this happen in 2007. It's like all of a sudden, I'll tell you guys this, beginning of 2007, I had about 75 listings. I was working for a large Keller Williams office. I had more listings than anybody in the office. I was getting so many calls on these listings. I couldn't keep up with the number of calls I got in a day. And so many showings, it was like unbelievable. It was overwhelming, right? We didn't really have centralized showing, as in showing time like we do now. We had them, but they weren't as good as what we have now, right? And I went from getting that to being lucky if I got 2 showings in the same day on 75 listings. And it was like all of a sudden you talk to a seller and you'd say, yeah, if you price it $150,000, it's the cheapest one in the market. And they go, oh, that's great. That's great. It should sell, right? You'd do this stuff. And then you would literally, you'd list their house, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then a week later, you're calling them back and going, hey, guys, sorry, the bank just listed the exact same house. It looks like it's nicer for $122,000. Sorry about that. What do you guys want to do? And I'm not sure we'll see prices drop that rapidly, but I think it's going to drop. I think it's going to be kind of quick. It's going to happen. Even a 10% drop would be devastating for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, totally. I hear you. Well,
so the precursor is going to be rental rates. I promise you guys, the precursor will be rental rates.
Gotcha. Well, everyone, you heard it here first. Watch for those rental rates. Watch for another shift in the other direction, and that'll be your cue to, like Jason said, really hone your skills, right? Yep. Take it back to the basics. Keep things simple. Hone your skills, because I think just like with the last recession, if we do have another one, it's going to be the agents that were prepared, that didn't give up, that had the skills, that had the tools in place, that are going to persevere. So I think that's a great thought. Any final thoughts or last words that you want to leave with our audience here today, Jason, as we wrap up? Man, just stick to your schedule, stick to the basic stuff, man. Go in there and prospect every day. I know it's easy to get frustrated. It's easy to, if you're doing really well, it's easy to get complacent. If you're not doing very well, it's easy to get frustrated. Sure. But we're all going through those same struggles right now in today's market, and
same challenges, and you just go in there every day, do the best you can, and just consistency, consistency.
I love it. That seems to be the message of today's show is consistency and keep doing what you're doing because
yep.
When stuff gets rough, that's what's really going to matter. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I think there's a lot of gold nuggets in there and a lot of great advice that I hope our audience can take today and implement into their businesses and keep on trucking. We got a lot of people chatting in. Great session. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for our audience.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, you betcha. For our audience, if you're watching or listening and want to continue this conversation online, we can do that in a couple of places. You can do that on our Facebook group, the REDX Elite Prospectors. You can also go to Jason's Facebook group. Jason has a huge Facebook group, Real Estate Agents That Really Work, right? Is that what it's called?
Yep, that's it.
So go check that out. The REDX Forum, if you're a customer, we can continue the conversation there. And if any of you would like to catch a replay of this episode, we post it on the redx.com/podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, Google, Apple, all over the place. And we will see you all next Thursday. Thanks again, Jason.
Yep. Hey, thanks, man. I'll see you guys.
Okay. We'll talk to you later.